Some whispered, the daughter of the late king. Indeed, Blanca was born after her father had already passed away. King Charles IV of France did not live to see even 2 months after her birth. He had hoped for a son, a strong, healthy boy to whom he could pass the throne. With that thought of an heir, he faded away. Meanwhile, passions were running high at court. No one wanted this last Capeting. When Her Majesty Jean gave birth to a girl, many exclaimed joyfully. Now they could celebrate the beginning of a new dynasty. Jean of the House of Evreux felt she had been deceived. She had sat on the throne beside the king for only 3 years, had been pregnant 3 times, and now she simply had to be rewarded. And once again, a daughter. They didn't even think twice about the name. What to call her? Ah, there's already a Jean and a Marie. Let's go with Blanca. If the king had been alive, they surely would have decided differently, as Blanca was the name of Charles IV's first wife. But now, no one cared about the girl or her name. Blanca was removed from the line of succession. After all, she was the youngest daughter. Just like the daughter of King Louis X and the heiress of Philip V had once been denied the crown. France adhered to a strict rule. Political power was not for women. Thus, the power passed to a collateral branch of the dynasty, the Valois. As a consolation, the princess's mother was gifted a city southeast of Paris. However, the Dowager Queen Jean was not satisfied with this and demanded the Kingdom of Navarre for herself. This was a delicate matter, as it was believed that the southern state would go to the only daughter of Louis X. Without batting an eye, the widow countered that there were significant doubts about that girl, as her mother had been accused of misconduct. Here, however, were heirs whose lineage was beyond question. Since Jean was as resolute as flint, they tried to placate her. They proposed a compromise. The daughter of Louis would pay her £5,000 annually. We'll forgive the source, Patrick van Kerbrouwer, who cites this particular calculation. But Jean insisted on 6. The negotiations lasted a full 7 years. Finally, King Philip VI cut the Gordian knot. He agreed to personally make up the missing 1,000 from his own reserves and to marry the queen's youngest daughter to his own youngest son. And so, the court was invited to the wedding. Princess Blanca, at 16, married Prince Philip de Valois, who was half her age. The newlyweds became the first Duke and Duchess of Orleans. Years passed, and Blanca became a true legend, the last of the Capetings. Her rival for the Kingdom of Navarre succumbed to the plague, and one by one, the daughters of King Philip the Long passed away. The Duchess of Orleans was almost constantly at court, where her intellect, nobility, and kindness earned her widespread respect. When her husband was captured by the English, she managed their joint lands with grace and dignity. Upon his return, as he effectively took charge of the country, King John the Good was still languishing in captivity. Blanca carried herself like a true queen. However, like all the last Capetings, with the exception of the English Queen Isabella, Blanca faced misfortune when it came to bearing children. Several pregnancies ended prematurely, and as time went on, age began to take its toll. After 31 years of marriage to Duke Philip, she had not given birth to a single child. The Duke of Orleans died young, around 40, unexpectedly. His lands passed to the crown, but Blanca did not contest this. She was content with the income from her mother's inheritance, and she was valued not for her wealth. The last of the Capetings passed away at the end of the 14th century, having witnessed the coronation of yet another king, Charles VI. In honor of the coronation of Isabella of Bavaria, Blanca gifted her a luxurious velvet gown embroidered with lilies. As a mark of respect, her remains were transported to St. Denis, where only kings were laid to rest. Although Blanca never wore a crown, she conducted herself with true royal dignity throughout her life. It's worth noting that today, only descendants from the collateral branches of the Capeting dynasty exist. With Blanca's death, the senior line, the direct descendants of Philip the Beautiful, about whom the renowned novelist Maurice Druon wrote, came to an end. However, I must remind you of the feudal laws of the Middle Ages, which dictated that property and titles were inherited by the eldest in the line. Accordingly, the Capetians as a ruling dynasty faded into history with Blanca's passing. The Valois and Bourbons, branches of the larger genealogical tree, are considered separate dynasties. In official documents and chronicles, the kings of these dynasties were recorded as Valois or Bourbons, not as Capetians.